Welcome to Aspire to Retire. I'm your host, Cheryl Nelson. I'm here along with Ralph and Tim Shore and Scott Earhart, all from Welcome Home Financial Partners. Good to be with you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Always great to see you. And our show today is about how to have a recession-proof retirement, safeguarding your financial future. We will explore practical and innovative approaches to ensure your retirement savings thrive in any economic climate, unlocking the secrets to a financially secure retirement, even during the toughest of times, to achieve lasting financial security. So before we begin though, guys, what can our viewers expect by being a caller on today's show?
So what they can expect is an appointment with one of us where we can sit down and take a look at their financial situation and see how best to help them out.
All right, we always like that. We always like you guys to call in. So let's dive right into this. What does it mean to have a recession-proof retirement?
So a recession-proof retirement is a retirement plan that's built specifically to withstand any economic headwinds that might give a downturn. So for those of us that are old enough to have been through a recession or two in our lifetimes, we understand that things can get a little rough. Now, if you have a proper plan built out with different buckets of money, different sources for your income, you can withstand those downturns no matter when they come in your retirement, whether it's early, middle, late, anything like that.
Yeah, it sounds scary though. I don't think anybody wants anything like that to happen. So why is it essential to prepare for economic downturns as part of that retirement planning?
What I would say is, number one, it's going to happen. If you have a long retirement, you're going to have those ups and downs in the market, those ups and downs in the economy, so you need to be prepared for it. Almost be like a Boy Scout, be prepared.
I like
because
that.
It is going to happen. Would you not agree?
Yeah, and the biggest thing is it's going to give you peace of mind, right? So the longer we're living, as they say, you know, we might have 30 or 40 years worth of retirement, but even if you don't, even if you have 20 years, more than likely you're going to run into some recession. So you've got to make sure that your plan is built for that.
But not only in recession, but there's other things that's going to happen in your lifetime that you weren't expecting to happen. Your health may deteriorate as you get older. So.
Absolutely. And what if something happens though, like let's say, you know, in those last couple years before retirement and you're like, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that. I thought I was going to have all this money and now boom.
Well, that's why we tell a lot of our clientele to start talking to us earlier, not at the day you retire.
Right.
But, you know, when you get 5-10 years away from retirement, it's time to start talking to a financial professional so that we can help you build a plan, understand what's going to happen, and have you positioned for that retirement red zone. Those next few years right before you retire, make sure you're positioned in a way that if that recession comes, if that downturn comes, you're not going to get wiped out and be forced to work for another 5-10 years just to recover.
Yeah, nobody wants to be wiped out. And, you know, how have past recessions affected retirees and their savings? Because I know, you know, you learn from history, right?
Yeah, you learn from history, and a lot of people, like in 2008 when that one happened, there's a lot of people who didn't retire the way that they wanted to, or they just flat out didn't retire. So a lot of people, you know, in 2008 the S&P 500 lost 38%. So if you lost 38% of your nest egg, are you still going to be able to do what you want to do? Probably not. So then it's going to take a lot longer to recoup what you've lost, and we've got to make sure, once again, that that plan is all encompassing and we can make sure that we can protect a large part of that asset.
But the other thing I would say also, particularly for business owners, you've got to be prepared for that, because like Tim said, when 2008 hit, there was a lot of people that had planned on selling their business for their retirement, and all of a sudden they couldn't sell anything because of the economy, and those are things that they need to be prepared for, because I know we all put money into the business thinking that's what we're going to do in retirement, but all of a sudden things like this happen, and all of a sudden you might have $1 million business that you can't get rid of for 200.
Yeah.
So how's that going to affect your retirement?
Exactly. So what are some other lessons learned then from past recessions?
Is not to wait till the end, till you get there when you walk out of your employment to start planning, right? So we talk about the retirement red zone a lot, and that's 5 to 10 years before you retire. You've got to make sure that you start doing things a little bit different. A lot of people, when they're working, they do everything for themselves, right? I mean, how many times do we see people come in and they're like, yeah, I've done this, but now I know it's time for me to hand over the keys to somebody who's a professional, who's going to take a look at the retirement income and not just accumulating that large pot of money. So a lot of people, once we get closer to retirement, you really got to dive into what you're currently doing.
And I'd say the other big thing that I see a lot is our clients or people that are looking to retire need to be open to diversification. So many people have put everything into their 401k and they are buying the company stock in that 401k or this one fund. We need to help them get diversified so that if one sector does take a hit, recession does come, you're not going to get wiped out.
Mm-hmm. But believe it or not, Cheryl, there's a lot of people that will come in once they are going to retire within 2 months. And it's kind of hard to make recommendations to tweak their retirement to make it look better for them at either right before they retired or, hey, we had one client that came in and with his wife because his wife was going to retire in a couple months. And all of a sudden he said, oh, what, you haven't talked to me about my retirement. I said, well, I didn't know you were going to retire. And he said, oh, yeah, I'm going to retire. I said, when are you going to retire? Oh, I retired yesterday. And his wife looked at him and goes, what do you mean? So
what do you mean?
She had no idea. He already turned his papers.
Where's the communication in that relationship?
Well, that's life. That is life.
Okay,
Right.
so note to selves, talk to your spouse, your significant other. That's something that you gotta make sure you do. And speaking of all of this, the ups and the downs, I know it affects the mental health of retirees. So what advice do you have to help them cope with all of this?
Biggest piece of advice I'd give is work with a financial professional. It's our job to help you have the peace of mind so you can sleep at night. You can put your head on the pillow, fall asleep, and not worry about your money, not worry about your retirement. Hire someone that has a team together to help you achieve your goals.
Yeah, and I think a big thing too is we need to help people avoid that mistake, or if that happens, you don't have to worry about the market loss. You don't have to worry about not being able to sleep at night. You don't have to worry about still working, which is not what anybody wants to do once they hit a certain age, right? So, and we've had people here locally that the company stock has plummeted like in 2017, and we've seen a lot of bad things happen. And mental health is a big thing these days, and last thing you want to do is retire and your golden years aren't golden because you can't sleep at night, can't do the things that you want to do. You have to imagine that.
But I would also say most people were never trained at what to do about retiring.
Thank you.
And that's exactly what we try to bring to the table. Let you understand how things work, how to make it better for you, so you can sleep at night like we were talking about.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, were we trained how to raise kids in school? Were we trained how to fund ourselves for retirement? No, we weren't trained on any of this stuff.
Right.
So how are we supposed to learn, right?
You have to seek that guidance, right? So
Yeah.
you've got to take some action. You've got to sit down with a professional and hand the keys over. And maybe you're doing everything right, right? So if you currently have your plan in place and everything looks good, we'll tell you that. But more than likely, most folks are only worried about that large sum of money.
Yeah.
They're chasing that $1 million, that $2 million, or the $500,000, whatever it is. People are chasing the number. It's not about that number anymore once you get into retirement. It's about your income.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to take a brief break, but before we do, tell us about our special offer.
All right. So the first 10 callers who have saved $250,000 or more for retirement, pick up the phone, give us a call, 833-897-4845. We'll sit down with you and create your very own retirement income plan. And the best part is, Cheryl will do it on a complimentary basis.
We love that. All right, take advantage of that. Once again, 833-897-4845. And coming up next, we will discuss pensions, Social Security benefits, and more. You don't want to miss this.
Imagine the future you've been wanting all along. A world where your retirement income is covered and you don't have to worry. Your financial assets are protected, and you have an experienced team fighting every day to grow your assets. Imagine a company creating tax strategies and legacy plans to make sure your loved ones are protected no matter what happens. At Welcome Home Financial Partners, we're an experienced financial team with the right professional licenses and an unbreakable commitment to making our clients feel like family. Here you'll find determined, friendly faces in a world filled with obstacles and problems. We help plan your retirement income to ensure you won't run out of money in retirement. We build in protection to make sure your assets are covered on all sides. We focus on growing your wealth to combat inflation and rising cost of living. And we design tax strategies to help you avoid paying back what you shouldn't while protecting the people you love. Our team never stops fighting for you. With an unparalleled work ethic, we work hard because we know your future depends on it. We're proud to help you choose the life you want to live in retirement. Welcome to your financial future. We're so glad you're here.
Welcome back to Aspire to Retire. We're talking about retirement and recessions and stuff that is a little bit not the best thing to talk about here. So we're diving into how to make it better, how to cope with that, and help our mental health. So I want to talk about this, annuities. We hear about the term annuities a lot. Define that and tell us how those guaranteed income products can help during a recession.
Well, what I would say for most people, they need to understand what an annuity is.
Yeah.
It's just basically a series of payments that you can set up that you don't have to worry about whether the recession has hit you or not.
Smart.
The other thing that it does allow you is to sleep at night knowing that it's coming in, because if you are not going to have to be dependent upon the ups and downs and swings of the market, wouldn't that make it better for you to understand when your income's coming in?
So annuities, I like to call that safe money. Is that fair to say?
It is safe money, and most
Okay.
people don't understand how they work. There's some things that they need to understand. That's why we sit down with people and explain a gambit of a lot of different things. Would you not?
Yeah, and they're not, it's not a one size fits all kind of thing, right? So each one will work a little bit different. It's based off what you're trying to accomplish with your money. So a lot of people, and believe it or not, I know they know I'm going to bring this up. I wrote an article for Forbes about that, the
Nice.
misconceptions about annuities. There's a lot of them out there because you see a lot of national people just giving broad statements about, hey, this isn't going to work for you, this is expensive, you don't have access to your money, that kind of thing. We sit down, if that's part of the portfolio we feel like you should be in, we'll describe how it works, when it works, and if it's a good fit.
Yeah. Okay, that's really good to know. Now, what about pensions? I know not a lot of people have pensions anymore these days, but some people luckily still have them. So what should we know about pensions, especially if the company faces economic challenges?
Well, first and foremost, if you've got a pension, congrats.
Yeah.
I mean, congrats, right? That's a great thing, and it's designed to help be a great benefit for people that worked a long time for a company and pay them throughout their retirement years. Now, you know, pensions in recent history have, I don't want to use the word been busted, but I mean, that's the term that you see a lot in the media, that pensions have been busted. So if your company is on hard economic times, it might be worthwhile to take a good hard look at what your pension options will be when you put in the paperwork and retire. There's a lot of times where we can get a lump sum payment and continue a pension payment, or possibly do some different things. It all comes down to the numbers, comes down to the lifestyle that you want to lead, and how it can fit your retirement. But it's definitely worth researching and taking a look at.
And
Yeah.
what I
ahead.
would also say is there's about 6% of the retirees are going to have the pension right now. But the ones that have a pension that is coming out, it may not be the same as it was for everybody else. So you need to understand that. You need to understand how it works. And like Scott was talking about, if you need to take a look at your company, it's not guaranteed if the company is not going to be there to make those payments to you. It may change a little bit because they may not be able to do that, but there are some guarantees and stuff with the pension boards and things like that.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is you have to know your options. A lot of people say, okay, I'm going to retire, so my company's going to give me $2,000 a month, whatever it is, but you could have some other options. Scott talked about taking a partial lump sum of it, or you could just roll it into an IRA. You could just have a full lump sum. But a lot of folks now who are currently getting pensions, they're getting offered buyouts. We've seen that a lot recently.
Oh.
And if there's a buyout, pretty much the company wants to put the onus on you at this point. Okay, here's what we owe you, take it, run with it, we're off the hook. So that's what people have to pay attention to, is that could happen, and you need to make sure you make the right choice.
And I think one thing that we do need to hit on when we talk about this, if you are lucky enough to have a pension, you do need to talk to a financial professional, help you understand it, because the person that you've been working next to for 20 years, what's right for them is not necessarily right for you. The decision they made shouldn't be the automatic decision you make. You need to sit down, make sure you facilitate a plan that works for you and your household, not what worked for someone else.
But the other thing I would also say, you need to understand what your options are, because once you make that determination, that's it.
You can't go back.
You can't go back, because a lot of people picked a large number for monthly payment without realizing that they do not have any survivorship to their wife. And all of a sudden, when you pass on, I'll give you a perfect example. I had one client that the wife came in because passed away.
Oh, no.
And did not realize that she was going to not receive any more income from the pension.
Awful.
So that's what, like back to Scott's point.
Yeah, all the fine print.
Come back to us or people like us that we are able to help you understand that decision.
Okay.
And we haven't even talked about the tax implications too. So a lot of people, when they see that large number, whether it's monthly or it's a lump sum, they think, hey, if my lump sum option's $150,000, okay, I'm going to put that in my bank. Well, guess what? If you don't put it into an IRA, now Uncle Sam's going to come knocking on your door because now you owe him a large sum of money for taxes. So you've got to pay attention to those things.
So much to think about when it comes to that. And then that makes me think Social Security, because people are thinking, oh, well, maybe I'll have some Social Security, but who knows, will we? So how can we optimize Social Security benefits to provide a safety net during recessions?
It's going to be based off everybody's individual situation, but if you just look at it for what it is, the longer you wait, the more you're going to receive. The one thing I would pretty much say to anybody is, if you're currently working and you're not at full retirement age, there's no sense in taking it at that point, right? So the longer you wait, it's supposed to build 8%. We always know things are up in the air with Social Security, right? We can't control what's going to happen with that. But just because you are going to maximize your Social Security benefit doesn't necessarily always mean it correlates with your retirement plan. So that's why it's very important to take a look at what you're currently doing and not just the Social Security piece. A lot of people, once they hit 62, they're like, hey, I paid into it. I want to go ahead and take my money and run. Well, you know, it could affect your spouse later on down the road, because if you were the breadwinner and you took a lower benefit, they're probably going to receive that benefit when you pass away. So that could lower the benefit for their lifetime as well.
Really? Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Even if they don't take theirs until a later age, like 67, 70?
Yeah, it's going to depend on the higher benefit. But that's the thing people have to pay attention to is, you know, don't just go ahead and say across the board, hey, I'm going to take it at 62, and don't say, hey, I'm going to wait until age 70. You've got to take a look at your plan, your assets, and what you're doing, and have that correlate with you.
So much sneakiness goes into this, I feel like.
Well, I wouldn't call it sneakiness.
Well,
it's just proper planning. Yeah,
that's what I would say.
You guys aren't sneaky, but I feel like everything that's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, that's why they got to call you guys, because you know about all this and how to weather these storms. And do people need to adjust their lifestyle to weather possible downturns? I mean, what are they supposed to be doing?
Well, what I would say is you have to understand what your numbers are, what your expenses are going to be. So if you're planning on traveling to Paris and spending a month there and it's going to cost you $20,000 for that month, you need to know where's that money coming from. Maybe you're not able to do it this year because downturn, but you've got to make those adjustments. Would you not agree?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And a lot of what we do when we sit down and talk with people is we have the conversation about what does your retirement look like, because you are going to adjust your lifestyle when you retire. So understand, get an idea of what you want your retirement to look like before you retire.
And you got to make sure that you just don't leave your investments where they are, where they were 40 years ago, because that's not the proper plan either. And a lot of people, when they have all their money in the market, if there's a market downturn, they're not going to do the things that they want to do in that year. And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense either, because then why aren't you still working?
Yeah,
right.
So many things to think about here. It's time for another break, but before we go, once again, Tim, remind us of that special offer.
Yeah, so the first 10 callers who saved $250,000 more for retirement, pick up the phone, give us a call, 833-897-4845. We'll sit down with you personally in the office, and we can create these retirement strategies just for you. And guess what, Cheryl? We'll do it on a complimentary basis.
I love it when you say complimentary. That's always great. That free, my favorite word. So guys, keep those questions coming. Take advantage of our professionals. And again, call right now for advice, 833-897-4845. Coming up next, it's our favorite part of the show. We will feature some of your burning questions.
It was the longest running bull market in history. Everything was looking up. While inverted yield curves pointed to a recession, the market kept going. And then, if you're planning to retire soon, that could spell bad news for your returns. Our team can help you better withstand the bear market. Now more than ever, you need a financial professional to stand with you. Visit our website to learn more about our services. You can call or email our office to schedule your complimentary consultation today.
Welcome back to Aspire to Retire. We're having a great time today, and it's our favorite part of the show. Yes, it is your burning question. So we're going to start first with Larry from Montrose. Larry says, I am already retired and do not work with an advisor. I'm very skeptical of the market. The last thing I want to do is go back to work. What is the best way for someone to diversify their risk and reduce volatility? Good question.
Yeah, Larry, that is a great question. And a lot of people are in that same boat, is where they've done everything for themselves for the last 20, 30 years, whatever the case may be. And now they know they're getting to the finish line. And now they don't know what to do because they're in a different phase of life. You hear diversification a lot, right? So diversification, meaning that you're not all in the same vehicle, right? We've got different instruments that we can use, but that doesn't mean that you just take your big pot of money and scatter it everywhere, right? That makes things a little bit more difficult. So what I would say is give us a call. We'll give you a second opinion on what you're currently doing, and then we can kind of take it from there, because it's a case-by-case situation. If you don't need any income, things might look a little bit better. If you need a whole lot of income, things might not look quite as good. So those are things that we sit down with people and talk about.
Yeah, okay, good answer. Billy from Amelia says, I have seen the mortality tables say that we're supposed to be living longer. If we are living longer, it sounds like there's more possibility for recessions in retirement. How many people do you guys feel like actually understand the importance of protecting and securing your retirement savings? I know we've been talking about this all show, but how many people do? That's a good question too.
Well, I'd say anybody that comes into our office probably understands, because we're going to drill it into them and talk about it. And Billy is right. The longer you live, the more opportunity there is for an economic downturn to happen to you. So what I'd say is, how many people understand it? Anybody that's working with a good financial professional should understand it. And the best advice I'd give to anybody like that is, if you're not working with a financial professional, call someone, sit down, have them put eyes on what you currently have, and build out a plan that you can understand and you can implement to make sure that the economic downturn doesn't hurt you when it happens.
But what I would also say is, you need to understand most advisors out there are just focused on accumulation. Now you need to talk about diversification, talk about distribution.
Right.
That's why you need to talk to.
Yeah, it's all about the age and stage is what I like to call it, because when you're younger, you can take more risk. You don't necessarily have to worry about, what the market's going to do or what it's not going to do, because you're going to take some losses during your life. That's just what it is. But once you get to the second phase of your life in retirement, that's when you really need to shift your focus. And that's why, a lot of people come in and they're like, hey, I've done this forever, but now I know that I'm probably not doing the things I'm supposed to for my retirement years.
Yeah, it's so much easier when you guys just do everything, because I'd rather just take all the papers. Here, do it, because I don't want to deal with it. But that's why you guys do what you do.
No throwing papers at us.
Please
what?
don't.
Well, no. All right, next, Dawn from Chester says, I hear in the show that you talk about protection and volatility, but how important is it in your retirement plan to be flexible?
Well, what I would say to you, you need to understand that life is going to do certain things for you. You got to be flexible about it. But at the same time, let me just ask you this. If your pot of gold at the end of the rainbow just lost a half of it, how would it make you feel?
I'd be very upset.
Would you be able to do the things that you want to do at that time? That's why protection is important, because if you cannot do the things that you want to do because you just lost 50% of your bank account,
Yeah.
how's that going to make you do?
Giving me anxiety is what's
Exactly.
happening.
Yeah,
So.
and one thing to point out is, when people come see us, we don't paint this beautiful sunshine and rainbows deal.
There's no rainbows
I think
and
you brought up the
butterflies?
rainbows because of the leprechaun sitting beside you with the green on. But
Am I a leprechaun now?
So, but when you sit there and you take a look at it, there's a lot of people out there that say, hey, I think there was somebody nationally who just said that you should withdraw 8% of your account because you should expect to have a 12% annual increase in the market every year. Well, that came out, and it's like, I don't know what they're looking at. That's the sunshine and rainbows. We look at things more, not worst case, but more on the negative side, more conservatively, because we've got to make sure that we've got that recession-proof plan built for them, because life is going to throw curveballs at you. Nobody sitting at this table knows what tomorrow is going to bring.
That's true. And what I'd tell Don specifically is to scan the QR code, because if he's living there in Chester, we've got an office right there in Chester. We'd be more than happy to sit down and show him some different options for his protection.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. That QR code on the bottom of your screen. Yeah, take your phone and scan it, set up an appointment, get more information. I love that now. You don't even have to talk to people if you don't want to. You can just scan it and set up that appointment. Good stuff. Next up is Iris from Richmond. Iris says, I'm 79 years old and I do not want any risk in my portfolio. I'm considering an annuity. Am I too old, or do you think this is a good option for me?
Iris, I think it could be a good option. That's the key word there is could. It's going to depend. You know, all annuities aren't created equal. Not everything's the same. So there's all different types. There's all different lengths of time. So Iris, a 20-year product that you can't get any money out of for the first 18 years, probably not a good option. You know, something that fits your time frame and your lifestyle could be a very good option for you for protection.
Yeah, and people talk about risk all the time, but they don't really realize that there's more risk than just the market. I'm assuming Iris is talking about market risk. So could an annuity work for you? It could, but until we know all the details about your financial situation, it's very hard to answer that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, one more question. Todd from Bon Air says, my mother died recently and I'm the beneficiary on the IRA and I'm younger than 59 and a half. Can I roll it into my own IRA? What are the tax implications?
Well, what I would say is you can roll it into an IRA, but you could not do it into your own IRA as far as what you have presently. It would have to be what they call an inherited IRA, and there are special rules and regulations with that, with the new tax laws that you need to understand, because you, at that point in time, have to liquidate that account within 10 years of it being established, no matter where the investment is, okay? So if you do not liquidate it by the end of 10 years, there's a penalty from the IRS. So just understand that. And that's why it's best, if you don't need that money, to just probably take 10% out a year, so the tax implication will be a little bit less.
Always penalties here. And we got to wrap up the show today. Good stuff, good conversation. But that special offer, Tim, once more before we
Thanks, Cheryl. So the first 10 callers who have saved $250,000 or more for retirement, pick up the phone, give us a call, 833-897-4845. We'll sit down with you in the office and create your very own recession-proof retirement plan just for you.
All right. Once again, thank you for joining us today on Aspire to Retire. We always love your questions. Next time, we will talk about how to diversify your income sources. So if you'd like advice, once again, call us now or scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen. That phone number is 833-897-4845, and you could be featured on our next episode. On behalf of all of us at Aspire to Retire, I'm your host, Cheryl Nelson. Have a great day.